Hello everyone, I'm Chenxi who just graduated from Johns Hopkins University. This is joint work with my advisor Alan and Peter, Kaiming, Ross, Saining from Facebook AI Research. The title of our work is Are Labels Necessary for Neural Architecture Search? The computer vision community has come up with a large number of neural architectures. They may be designed by humans or searched by machines. They may be applied to supervised or unsupervised tasks. But what all these architectures have in common is that when they were originally designed, it was a supervised task that they were optimizing for, in the sense that semantic labels were used. But are labels necessary? If we look at natural intelligence, the process of nature architecture search started long before semantic labels emerged. So it is conceivable that unlabeled data played a crucial part in the development and evolution of our brain structure. With this project, we want to see if we can observe something similar on the artificial intelligence side. If there were no semantic labels, what neural architectures will we find? Will they look similar to what we have, and will they work as well? Intuitively, our setting corresponds to an unsupervised version of neural architecture search, and we will now formalize its problem definition. To define unsupervised NAS, it is useful to refer to the definition for neural architecture search first. When we talk about NAS, we usually think of the process of identifying one architecture from the search space. But in addition to this search phase, there's also an evaluation phase in the problem of NAS. That is, when we have identified the architecture, we train it from scratch on some target data and task to assess its quality. As indicated by the green arrows, the search phase typically uses human annotated labels, and the evaluation phase uses human annotated labels as well. So what is different in our unsupervised NAS setting, or UNNAS for short? In UNNAS, the search phase is not allowed to use any human annotated labels, but the evaluation phase is still supervised. This is to say, after we have identified an architecture without using labels, we still train it on, for example, ImageNet classification to assess its quality just like before. So using the labels during the evaluation phase does not conflict with the definition of UNNAS. In case you're not convinced why this is a good idea, we point out this setting is exactly analogous to the unsupervised feature learning literature. In unsupervised feature learning, there are also two phases. In the training phase, the weights in the network are trained without human annotated labels, but in the evaluation phase, these weights are fine-tuned towards a supervised target task, for example, ImageNet classification, to assess the quality of these weights. We summarize the relationship between different learning problems and scenarios in this 2x2 table. It is evident that our setting is not only the unsupervised generalization of NAS, but also the architecture level generalization of unsupervised learning. Okay, so hopefully we are now all on the same page regarding what is unsupervised NAS. Your first reaction may be, this setting seems quite challenging as it uses strictly less information, and you may be wondering what sort of signals might we be able to exploit. In this project, we are going to get a lot of help from the so-called self-supervised objectives. For the sake of this talk, we are going to use the term unsupervised and self-supervised interchangeably. In case you are not familiar, these are ways of producing meaningful labels from the images themselves. For example, rotation means predicting the image rotation out of the 4 possibilities. Colorization means predicting the original color from the grayscale image. Jigsaw puzzle means reassembling the original image from patches. These objectives were originally developed to transfer the learned weights. Here we study their ability to transfer the learned architecture instead. Using these self-supervised objectives, we conduct 2 sets of experiments of complementary nature, sample-based and search-based. In sample-based experiments, the experimental design is as follows. We first randomly sample 500 architectures from a search space. Then we train these same architectures for the 3 unsupervised objectives, as well as the supervised objective, that is classification. Repurposing the same architecture for different tasks pretty much only involves minor changes to the last layer. Finally, we measure the Spearman's rank correlation between unsupervised and supervised. We conduct these steps on two different datasets and two different search spaces. The advantage of this setting is that each network is trained and evaluated individually, but the disadvantage is that because of the training cost, we could only consider a small random subset of the entire search space. These are our experimental results. Each row corresponds to one search space. In each figure, there are 500 dots representing the 500 architectures. The x-axis represents supervised accuracy on CIFAR 10, and the y-axis represents unsupervised accuracy on CIFAR 10. We see that the rank correlations are pretty high, usually higher than 0.8. When we run the same experiment on ImageNet, similar high rank correlations are observed. Therefore, across two different datasets and two different search spaces, we report that the architectural rankings produced with and without labels are highly correlated on the same dataset. We can also run sample-based experiments across datasets. Here, the x-axis represents supervised accuracy on ImageNet, and the y-axis is accuracy on CIFAR 10. A popular technique in NAS is to search the architecture on CIFAR 10 classification, then directly apply it on ImageNet classification. The rightmost panel reflects this setting, but we see that the unsupervised rank correlations are very close behind, which is unexpectedly encouraging. We now switch to the search-based experiments, where the experimental design is also very straightforward. We take the well-established DARTS algorithm, which is typically used with a supervised objective, except that we make the minimal change of replacing its search objective with rotation, colorization, and jigsaw. We take the searched architecture, found without using any human annotated labels, and train from scratch for a supervised target goal and evaluate accordingly. The advantage of this setting is that technically we are exploring the entire search space, but the disadvantage is that there will be a training dynamics mismatch between the search phase and the evaluation phase. These are the experimental results. The three figures represent the three different datasets that the search phase used: ImageNet 1K, ImageNet 22K, and Cityscapes. The green bar on the three figures are the same. That is the performance of an architecture found using CIFAR 10 classification as the proxy. The orange bar represents the performance of an architecture found using the supervised setting on the respective dataset. The rest represent our UNNAS setting. We can see that the UNNAS architectures perform very competitively. They usually match the supervised setting on the same dataset and outperform the commonly used CIFAR 10 classification proxy. In fact, it also outperforms the state-of-the-art on this search space, which uses a more sophisticated algorithm and is not shown in the figure. We repeat the same experiment using Cityscape's semantic segmentation as the target instead of ImageNet classification. The conclusion is very similar, that UNNAS architectures are comparable to the supervised NAS architectures. We even found a case where the UNNAS architecture is clearly better than the supervised NAS architecture, as highlighted in red. Putting together the two experiments, we feel comfortable claiming the following take-home message. To perform NAS successfully, labels are not necessary. An immediate implication of this is to reduce the labeling requirement in existing AutoML products. As we visualize down below, in many applications, the percentage of label data can be small, and the power of AutoML would be limited if we are constrained to them. On the contrary, we hope our work opens up possibilities for future AutoML products by utilizing more data in searching for high-quality architectures. Thank you for your attention.